and will sit as spectator. No. If no one will do that, the youth league on our watch will protect the democracy of this country. I want to say to you, the reason we call so that you cannot be surprised. I don't think because I serve as a mayor, we will be the front runner. We will lead our people that will lead them before. We will be there. If day that will be announced by anyone, we want to say to you, similar day will be announced by us. And whatsoever you say, we will also be there. Meet this flesh. So as I be in and to see exactly what you come to protect our peace. Thank you very much.
People think shall die, or they continue to do this very thing. They are order to do what? Then to do evil. You see what the scripture say there? You see what the scripture say? So today, what the Bible says you will be. And God will allow you to go in that direction. Broadway. Broadway, you will hate one another. You will think of new way to do evil. There are people now think of new way in Gaza to be doing wickedness now.
So he had checked here. We published what checks before. He denied a signature on those checks. He got on the campaign. He's a common criminal. I'm saying that to you. He's a common criminal. There's the budget he voted for. He's a criminal because he learned at $3.6 million in the budget. He can't take me anywhere. I defy him. There's a criminal. No, I'm not angry. I'm being forceful. I'm being intellectual. I'm providing facts. No, I said something I didn't mention him. So they don't know the analysis. He has no integrity in life. Integrity. He's in the crisis of integrity. He's drowning in the crisis of integrity. He don't want to fake. He's drowning in the crisis of integrity. I say it's a criminal, it's a thief. To take a $45,000 car in the budget to vote for it, not just to vote for it. And you didn't inform the people because you said everything you inform the people, it's not record for that. And he didn't say anything about it. Okay, the pastor he vote, but why he didn't say it? Why he didn't say he voted for it? The records are there, though, gentlemen.
I'll tell you this. To be too damn greater than good, we elected Jeremiah in 20 up to 2023. Why does he want to move to be, for example? Why does he want to protect against anybody, for example? You don't know me, scary me. I'm a principle-minded person. So I told the people that go all around the money that I see, that he the ways I mean, everything.
All right. Good evening, fellow lights. Welcome to the program. This is the only program where we provide impartial political analysis. Too many things to talk about in our country. For those of you who are watching, keep sharing the live video. To all of our esteemed listeners, get glued to the radio. Too many things happening. Let me know where you are watching from. And you too will have your say. The lines will be open so that you can make your input. Liberia remains among the denominator. It's the only country we cannot be deported from. My name political nonsense. From economic rubbish. People from political yabbies. Africa. From economic jargon. Attention, African soldiers. We are still calling African soldiers. African soldiers. All right, so it's good to be here. It's good to be here. Welcome, folks. Welcome to the program Good Evening Liberia on 89.5 Focal FM. This is the program where we provide impartial political analysis of all of the situations taking place in our country, Liberia. You know, this is what I often say. The Liberia remains our only denominator. This is the country we should be very proud of as Liberians, irrespective of our political belief, our ideology, what our ideology is being supported by all of the people in the country. We should be very, very proud of our country. You know, too many things happening in our country, and many of which are happening, particularly with regard to the situation that transpired this gone Thursday, the 22nd of August, at the headquarters of the Congress for Democratic. The clear difference between a coalition of democratic change and that of the Congress for Democratic Change. So we all understand these simple political terms. These are simple political terms. So when these terms are used, you don't need an expert to do a clear definition of these terms that are consistently used. So under the Liberian election laws, a coalition is a political arrangement that involves two or more political parties for several other motives. So, before 2023, CDC as a political party, as they are referred to as the grassroots party, because many a times when you are interviewing supporters of the Congress of Democratic Change, they say, our party is a grassroots party. Yes. And every other parties are subscribing to that doctrine of being a grassroots political institution. But here is what I make. MPP, a party that has been in existence for several years, a party that has been very successful in one of Liberia's electionary period, a party of former President Charles Gangatilo. So the NPP has been around for some times. And after the war subsided, you had the peacekeeping missions in Liberia. When former President Charles Gangatilo left Liberia, you had other political parties, other political parties participating into our electoral process. So in short, what am I driving at? My question is, do we still have the coalitions of democratic change, or we have the Congress for Democratic Change? What I do know of is that we do not have the coalitions of democratic change, because all of the political institutions that came together to form, to birth the coalitions of democratic change, all of them has parted ways. All of them has parted way. CDC, which is the Congress for Democratic Change, has returned to an opposition political party after the peaceful transitional process. After the peaceful transitional process, the LPDP, the LPDP, the two political parties decided and said, no, we don't want to be part of this arrangement, citing several other reasons. Citing several other reasons. And why they felt it was necessary to separate, to end this political marriage. CDC, considering that it has just returned, it has just turned power over, CDC still maintain the bloc of Liberia's biggest opposition party. Absolutely no argument about this. There is absolutely no argument about this. So what I think people in the CDC need to do, because if you try to do a clear analysis about why CDC lost the most recent election to the current president we are having, there are several other factors. There are several other factors. Several factors that made CDC. One could cite issues about internal division within the CDC. That could be a reason. One could cite that the Liberian people wanted a change. That could be another reason. But on the overall, the Liberian people went to the polls on October, and in the first round of the elections, CDC as the ruling establishment at the time won the first round of the election. And there was a declaration by the National Elections Commission chairperson, Madam Henrietta Brown-Lassagne, in obedience of the elections laws of Liberia. And the laws are crystal clear. The law says, in an event where all of the political parties that participated or that participate in the electoral process did not accumulate the 50% plus the one vote, a runoff election, which of course, the runoff election was a rematch. That was the second time in the history of our country, Liberia. For former vice president, who was at the time the political leader of the opposition unity party, and former President Weah, and President Weah at the time, to engage for the second time. And the elections win. However, all of the people all of the elections observers who were deployed for the purpose of observing our democratic process, all of them saw how the elections went, saw the kind of atmosphere that was created as the result of this election. And on a very serious note, after the conclusion of the elections, after the conclusion of their observation missions to Liberia, there were several other recommendations made. People knew that with the form and manner in which the country went, it was obvious that the country was divided on the basis of party line. And today, we still see that kind of obvious division. And the divide which we saw during the electoral process is still visible, despite the recommendations from international observers regarding our electoral process. Today, Liberians, probably some Liberians have lost consciousness. Some Liberians have lost consciousness. Many Liberians are no longer preaching the issues about patriotism. They are trying to champion the agenda of their political institution they represent. That is what many of us are observing. That is what many of us are observing. People in government behave as though they are still campaigning. People in opposition, they are even more combative. They are even more combative because they have an agenda to defend their political institution. So as a result of this, you will observe there will always be mounting tensions in the country. And so it is. There is a very distasteful atmosphere in the country. So let's go strictly to what transpired on Thursday of last week. The Liberian Drug Enforcement claimed that they had gone to execute a drug raid behind the headquarters of the Congress of Change. Update. This issues about who provided the writ and the court that provided the writ. There are still a lot of noise regarding that particular issue. There is still a lot of noise regarding that particular issue. Legal pundits are arguing that the West Point Ministerial Code does not have jurisdiction to issue a writ that will take effect in Congo time. And in fact, the court that issued that particular writ does not even have jurisdiction. It doesn't have the power to issue such a kind of writ. So those people who should be speaking to that particular matter are now saying they do not have a clue as to how the writ landed into the hands of officers of the Liberia Drug Enforcement Agency. Additionally, some of them claim that the writ was stolen. Yes, they claim the writ was stolen. So the Liberia Drug Enforcement Agency was even misguided from its initial state. Because as we speak, there is a whole lot of noise about who issued the writ and why is it the writ was issued and so forth. All of the processes that needed to be followed before the issuance of the writ was never adhered to. Was never adhered to. So you create a room for many people to speculate, which of course many people are doing. People are now speculating because those who are supposed to be speaking to these issues are providing conflicting statements. When you ask the other person, the other person says, "No, I wasn't informed. I don't even know. I don't even have a clue as to how the Liberia Drug Enforcement Agency went." So let's go. Let's proceed. Now that the controversial writ, you use the controversial writ to go and conduct a raid in a time called summertime. The very community that hosts the headquarters of a very major opposition political party. You claim that when you went there was a resistance. There was a resistance within the community, which led those people who you actually went to target, those people who you actually went to pursue, is that the resistance from the community dwellers led those people to escape in the headquarters of the Congress for Democratic Change. That is what you are claiming. And this is not intended to justify the actions, the unlawful actions that was portrayed by partisans of the Congress of Democratic Change. This is never intended to justify it. But I think if a drug dealer, if an alleged drug dealer has gone into the headquarters of a major opposition political party, I believe there were other routes, there were other respectable channels you could use as a law enforcement officer who have gone to do things in conformity with the laws, I believe that there were other appropriate channels you could have utilized rather than intruding into the headquarters of a major opposition political party. I think it was totally wrong on the part of the Liberia Drug Enforcement Agency. Why it is true that we are castigating the Liberia Drug Enforcement Agency over their actions of intruding, not applying other available medium. We also want to condemn in a stronger term what supporters or people believed to be supporters of the Congress of Democratic Change did. By trying to resist, and on that particular day, there was a very serious traffic within that vicinity. People were stranded. People were congested into the traffic for several hours. We saw partisans pelting stones at law enforcement officers, particularly the police. They were throwing stones that led to the vandalizing of several properties. A police officer was hurt, got wounded in that process. A police officer was wounded. And what it reminded me of was the dark days that we saw on camera. Because we weren't mature, some of us, we weren't mature at the time. It reminded tons of other people when people from the Liberia Council of Churches went there. They had to run for their lives. That was extremely unpatriotic. And many of the people you saw were young people. Young people were solely involved into the process. Then I said to myself, where do we want for our country, Liberia, to move? Where do we want our country to proceed? To proceed. We cannot be optimistic about transforming our country, wanting our country to progress, and we try to display behavior of such. It was very, very scary. On a very serious note, it was a very, very scary. It was a very scary situation. It was actually a very scary situation. We need to understand that as part of the reason that is underpinning our country's development is in connection with the very similar attitude we are exhibiting as Liberians. The 14 years of senseless civil war that was fought into this country, this is how it started. And people who are familiar with history, people who are acknowledgeable of the historical trend of Liberia, this is how it all started in our country. We need to be very, very serious as a country, irrespective of our political affiliation. Everyone is trying to defend his or her political institution. Injuring the collective interest of Liberia, injuring the interests of our country, Liberia. And this is why some of us, when former President George Manuel Weah said in his speech that they would use every available means, both legally and politically. As of the legal means he spoke about, it was well understood. It was well understood by Liberians. But when you talk about the political mean, that alone may not be understood by many of his supporters. They talk about resisting. He spoke about resisting. And you will notice that since former President George Weah made that particular statement, supporters of his political institution have become more combative than ever before. And they are saying, probably they are saying to themselves, yeah, our political leader has already said that we will politically resist. What the current trend that former President Weah is taking now, that should have been the trend he should have taken before coming up with this particular statement. There are several other institutions in our country, like Liberia, that we often get involved whenever you feel very uncomfortable with a particular situations in the country. You have the Liberia Council of Churches. You have several other institutions. that President Weah needed to have met with. And if he believes that those institutions do not have the jurisdiction or probably cannot address, then you try to get ECOWAS involved. That should have been his initial step. That should have been the former president initial step. Because in Liberia, too often, if you have ever quizzed Liberians about who the character former President George Manuel Weah is, they will tell you that indeed he is a peaceful person. He is a peaceful person. And this is where many Liberians, from his recent statement, where he talked about trying to apply every available means at their disposal to resist politically, that alone presented him different to many people who have already said that indeed former President Weah is actually a very peaceful man. We need to clearly understand the form and manner in which our country, Liberia, is heading to. So it is good that the regional body, although they have said their purpose of coming to Liberia was never on the basis of the letter that was filed by former President George Manuel Weah, but they are going to utilize this occasion to address concern raised. Let's see how it plays out. Let's see how it works. Let's see how it works. So we need to actually conduct ourselves. Remember, this is the only country we have. We need to be very mature as a country. Since normality was restored into our country, since normality was restored into our country, there are other African nations that want to learn from Liberia. Other people want to learn. But when we try to slip off from the values we have once maintained for several years, then it sent a very bad picture to our friends. So the numbers to call is 07700054746, 0886 708209. Those are the numbers to call, and you can be live on the show. We are live on Fuka FM, Fuka TV, 07700054746, 0886 708209. Those are the two numbers you can call, and you will be live on the show. So that's what we are saying. 0770-005746, 0886-708209. Those are the two numbers you can call and be live on the show. Those available mechanisms Those are things we should have. Those are things the former president should have utilized before coming. Before coming up. Every day we complain, the country, we want investors. Liberia is open to the investors. But we demonstrate our behavior tend to frighten. Our behavior tend to scare. You think investors will want to come into this country when every time there is a particular scary situation in the country? You think investors will want to come into this country when people are setting up roadblocks and burning tires here and there? These are things that scare investors. These are things that scare investors. So let's take a short break. When we come back, we jump into all the talking points.